healing and content. But that's assuming that the things that you've accumulated and you're gonna pass those on. So heirship is biblical. You look in the Bible, Jacob and Esau, that's all that was about, was stealing each other's heirship. But if you do what they say here, do it well. If somebody passes, do the succession, do not put that off, because the more people that pass, that were heirs, there's more people that's in the chain of the title. And that leads to one of the problems that I'm here to deal with as mayors, adjudicated properties. We have a lot of beautiful properties in some of the most prime areas of the city that are adjudicated because you can't clear the title. Mark Judson called y'all about that because he deals with that. Down to pilot to the insurance piece, you got the judge here who deals with those variations all the time. So it's important I tell people all the time, nobody plans to figure out they just failed the plan. So I think I want to salute Project Build a Future because, it is a project. So building a future is not only a mission to them, but it's also a ministry to help people, put people in homeless. You have to put a roof over your head to protect your family. When you have a home, you buy a home, you invested in the American dream. That now you stabilize your neighborhood because now you're concerned about crime in your neighborhood. You want the schools to perform well, people staying and not transient. And you also clean up your neighbor's yard. I mean, if you actually cut your neighbor's yard, but they just did good that day. That's a great deal, man. Yeah. And so I'm glad to see such good participation in this program. I encourage you all to take advantage of all the knowledge here. Take care of your property, your heirship rights, and then talk with Charlotte and board members of Project Build a Future. I see Brad over here, and on the phone. And whenever you do pass the baton, because I never called it anything else than pass the baton, because to build generational blessings, you have to pass to the next generation. All we can do is run our leg the right way and pass that on. But when you do pass that on, make sure you do it correctly, Mark. You want to leave your family a blessing. You don't want to leave them any type of stress. Then I've talked to you about a lot of things like mortgage insurance. If you at a certain age, get that mortgage insurance on your property so that it pays off the mortgage when something happens, so you're not passing on a clear piece of property. And hopefully you'll help my job to not have to deal with so much adjudicated property. And when you get hopefully in homes and stabilize our communities, and have generational blessings where the grandson, he can turn his life around, not because of what you said to him after you are, what you're doing with them right now while they're here. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. What was it like on Indians? In a 1936 novel by Margaret Mitchell, the author brings like in lines, the land's the only thing in the world worth working for, worth fighting for, worth dying for, because it's the only thing that lasts. While that sentiment rang true at the time the novel was set, your land represented stability, heritage, identity, and wealth. It still rings true today. One of the fastest ways to build generational wealth is to own assets, such as land. In fact, that is not only one of the oldest ways of creating generational wealth, but also one of the oldest ways of passing on generational wealth. And not just monetary wealth, but cultural, historical, and familial. When a property owner dies without a will or an estate plan, estate laws governing inheritance determine how the property is as remembered, legally entitled. Probate courts clarifies the distribution of real property, such as land and buildings, and some family members may be unaware of probate, lack the resources to use it, or distrust the system. These unresolved property issues become more complex over time, and especially with multiple heirs, or when heirs pass away, leaving down inheritance to other relatives. Resolving this heir's property phenomenon, also referred to as tangled title, family property, or family land, requires tracking down all living heirs to clear the title and specialized legal expertise. This process is complex and often unaffordable for many families, especially if several generations have both died since the original title owner's passed. Some of you here today may have family land that you grew up on, or land that was passed down to you or your family members. But some of you may also have had legal family land lost due to incomplete records of ownership or non-existent or unclear records stating a limit to the limit to inherit property upon someone's passing. The importance of land to generational wealth lies in its ability to provide a secure foundation and long-term value. Land is a finite resource that oftentimes appreciates over time, making it a valuable asset. Land can provide a steady income stream through rental properties or agricultural processing. Land is often seen as a legacy, a gift to be handed down from generation to generation, ensuring continuity and stability within families. Land can be strategically acquired and developed, offering multiple avenues for wealth generation. In short, land plays a crucial role in building generational wealth by providing security, income, and a legacy that can be passed down through generations. Our goal here today is to provide you with information and local resources to help you obtain their property, to retain your land and assets within your family, or to build your land wealth for future generations. In the Just Imagine plan written after Hurricanes Laura and Delta and published by the Community Foundation of Southwest Louisiana, it was estimated there were 670 plus pieces of adjudicated and vacant properties in the North Lake Charles area along the I-10 corridor. A lot of these properties had little titles of multiple persons laying claim, albeit also not legal claim to property. Those properties may have been vacant or may have had homes to them, which today are still waiting to be repaired. But as there are no clear owners, there are no legal or financially responsible persons for repairs. Beyond those 670 adjudicated properties, other properties were vacant, underutilized, or not contributing to communities to elite. Many of those properties still stand battered or vacant today. The plan went further to state that the first effort must be to create a standard state planning and succession plan to educate the public on the importance of estate planning and to assist in proceeding after the owners have passed away by truly ensuring their family properties have clear titles and are owned by rightful responsible heirs. Through a grant received from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas, Project Build the Future is working to help provide the needed education and financial support to assist individuals and families in clearing those title issues. And we are partnering with the Southwest Louisiana Law and Attorney to undertake for this today. This grant also addresses the final step in this process for generational wealth building, which is creating a plan for the passing on of the inheritance of your asset. Without a trust or a will stating who gets what, for how you want your assets to be defined, you run the risk of losing your assets outright or having to go to 4 places not able to choose it. Heirs property is one of the most unstable forms of property ownership for individuals and families. Heirs must coordinate maintenance of the property and payment of taxes or debts to avoid foreclosure. Speculators and developers and exploit vulnerable, disinterested heirs to gain an interest in the property and force property sales in the Petition Act, often acquiring the property for a fraction of its value and depriving families of both property and wealth associated with the land. A conservative 2024 estimate found there are at least 500,000 residential heirs properties across the nation. Estimates looking at all property types found 500,000 heirs properties in the South and Appalachia areas alone. Though heirs property is widespread, it disproportionately affects Black landowners in the South due to the legacy of slavery and racist land ownership law. Just 24% of Black Americans have a will. The significant income and wealth gap between Black and white families also means Black households are less likely to have the funds to access legal assistance to resolve fractional ownership. The Center for American Progress estimates Black landowners lost about 90% of their rural and agricultural land between 1910 and 1987. Hundreds of billions of dollars of lost wealth. And heirs property situations can cause further land loss. I began this address with a quote from Congress to Man, so you may have recognized that. It was spoken in the voice of Gerald O'Hara, father of Scarlett, and owner of Terra Plantations, one of the finest in the South. I think those words are fitting still today, in a shift of resiliency, in which land-lost owners have the power and knowledge to take back their property or properties and build the generational wealth opportunities that they have lost along the way.
Here.
On behalf of myself, Project Build Future staff and board, and the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas, I want to thank you all for coming out today, learning about and joining in conversations over heirship properties and the legal transference of assets. We not only hope that you take away valuable information and build relationships and help you navigate through your personal or family's needs regarding your asset, but also that you feel comfortable enough to charge forth and reclaim the assets your ancestors fought to belong to Ancora.
364 814 8364.
You put
And you have won a oven crisping set from Calcasieu Council on Aging. So I'll grab that for you and just open the store. You got it?
I was happy with this.
You're the best. Okay, perfect. We'll get that to you. Congratulations.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Chad Strauss. I'm with Strauss Law Firm and Lake Charles Title Company here in town. We specialize in real estate practice. We do a lot of successions, wills, and estate planning. We also deal with tax adjudicated properties and things of that nature.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brad Lacombe with Stockwell Seaver Title, formerly the owner of Southern Title and Escrow. We are also a full-service residential and commercial real estate title company. Deal with tax sale property, deal with successions, estate planning, and hopefully here to bring some knowledge to you guys today about some of those issues and hopefully allow you to prevent some of those issues on those properties purchasable and keep them in trim with summers. It's a pleasure to be here today. Hope you guys get something of value about us.
Mark Judson, Judson Law Firm, same stuff those two do. I'm probably the dumbest one on the stage, but I probably have a lot of School of Hard Knocks experience too, so that may balance it out. Glad to be here today. I have a law office in DeQuincy, I have a law office in Lake Charles. I'm also the city attorney in DeQuincy. So as a city attorney, we get to deal with a lot of adjudicated properties, tax sale properties, condemnation proceedings, and things like that. And I have just worlds of real estate experience, and grateful for Project Build a Future to host this thing. And also a former executive director of the Southwest Louisiana Law Center. That's a nonprofit law firm that helps them to resource with their still legal needs. And Project Build a Future and the Law Center have partnered to assist people straighten out heir property. So if you have an heir property situation, you need to visit the Law Center table and see if they can help you.
I will never concede the microphone and use it. I'm Judge Kendrick Gendry here at the 14JC right across the street. Typically, when I'm involved with any type of property, from my perspective from the bench is because there's a debate, there's a dispute. Something didn't go right. One party's not pleased with something, either the will, the trust, or neither a will or trust was ever done. And we have to unravel some things, and that's my typical involvement with the property, heirship, and succession rights.
Judge Gidry, since you have the microphone and you choose not to.
Told you I wasn't gonna give it up.
You mentioned wills and trust. Can you explain to us what the difference is? Because some people may use those terms synonymously and not know if there is or is a difference, or is there?
There is a difference. I did not practice trust work when I was in law practice, but trust is a tool that you can avoid probate. It puts property and sets it up in certain trusts, and there's a lot of different laws that govern that, but it avoids probate because when the person dies, then things are automatically decided where the property goes and who's in charge. You do a will, that must be probated. And it doesn't really matter. I let the lawyers tell you, their preference, what they tell their clients. It doesn't really matter which tool you use, but typically someone who has a lot of property, a lot of money, they tend to, or some special needs, they tend to use the trust. The will is very, very simple, and now we're just down to 2 different wills in Louisiana, but that has to be probated. The will dictates what happens to your property, but you have to go to court or probate that will. And then, if everything goes okay, it's just some steps and some process.
Right.
Really?
Would anyone like to add anything to that if they have a differing opinion or a different observation? Like,
Real quick, there's nothing wrong with probate in Louisiana. We're one of the cheapest probate states, so a lot of times it's more expensive to form a trust than to just simply have a will. And as the judge said, trusts are sometimes a more complicated situation. But don't be afraid of probate in Louisiana. Other states, it's very expensive, not so in Louisiana. So,
Correct. And just one final point. One of the reasons, as Judge Gendry mentioned, the putting someone that has a lot of property use a trust because it stays a little bit more confidential. when you do probate a will, or when you do go through a succession proceeding, one of the documents that you have to file is an inventory or a descriptive list of all of the property that the individual who passed away owned. Some people don't like their business being out there of public record, and so a trust is one way to avoid that and to get a little bit more confidentiality.
Yeah, I agree with everything everybody said. A common misconception we hear with trust and wills and everything is a lot of times people come to our office and say, well, I have a power of attorney over somebody. As the one clarification I want to start off on that is power of attorney is the death, that will takes over post-death. The will is to tell everybody how to proceed legally.
To answer your question, some differences between other states. A lot of states, when you buy the property and there is a deed, for example, in Texas, you can have a right of survivorship in the deed. In other words, the deed will say where it goes after death. Not so in Louisiana. In Louisiana, you have to transfer the title. A succession is a process where you transfer ownership of the assets from the deceased heir. You know, when we're all alive and we're on the earth and stuff, if we want to sign a deed, we can sign a deed. If we want to sign a bill of sale, we can sign a bill of sale. But when we're deceased, we're not around anymore. So you have to transfer the assets through the succession process.
Looking ahead, do you see, any of you, do you see Louisiana maintaining?
Just a little bit of that. I know that recent legislation has made the standards for a will a little lighter in that it's not quite the degree of formality that used to be required in a will. They are allowing a little less formality and still the ability to probate those wills. One of the big laws, you've heard us mention adjudicated properties or tax sale properties a lot already, and that's one of the big changes in the laws is starting next year. Those properties that go through tax sale on the back end, when they come out of the tax sale proceeding, they will be merchantable. I'll spare you guys the boring details of the legalities behind that, but essentially they have resolved one of those issues with the potential due process issue or the lack of notice, and made those tax sale procedures going forward a lot more sure in that the title that you get as the result of a tax sale proceeding, you're going to be able to get loans on it to sell it to somebody who needs to get a loan or get title insurance on that property. So that, I believe, is a major step forward. One of the biggest issues that the title examiner that we deal with aside from successions is tax sale property or adjudicated property. So it's been an issue that has been being discussed. I want to say it's 2018. They originally started formulating legislation to address the issue. That got derailed with the events that happened in the state between 2018 and now. But they did, in the last session, really address that. It doesn't resolve the problems for the titles currently, but going forward, they do have a lifelong benefit out of it.
These gentlemen are telling you very, very specific areas of the law. As a judge, what I want to convey to everybody in the room, do not try to navigate your way through a succession or probate or wills or trust without some type of legal advice. They go to school for this. They're trained in this. If this microphone stopped working right now, I would not have a clue how to make it work. Okay? And I say that to be funny and serious at the same time. All of these vendors specialize in certain areas of the law. I see a lot of people in court, and that's where people get in trouble. They'll come with their stacks. I just had somebody in my courtroom yesterday. They were on the internet, and they got a form. They fill out a form. Well, guess what? They didn't have the knowledge to how to make the form work, and it was wrong, and they lost. And when you lose in court, it's done, unless you have the funds to appeal it. So I don't say that to fatten their pockets. I'm saying at least get some advice, get some guidance. Don't let the internet be your lawyer, because it will not guide you the right way in Louisiana. The internet is just generic, and it's not going to be specific to laws here. And it's very specialized knowledge. I'm on a committee that they just changed some. I'm on the committee and didn't really understand the answer, but that's exactly what they did. The changes are always ongoing, and get in touch with a lawyer, at least get some advice. Then decide if you want to represent yourselves. But I find in court, those folks who represent themselves make a lot of errors, and they end up losing property that should rightfully be theirs.
This is a real pet peeve of mine. a brief bit of history. Prior to 2006, tax sales were not that big a deal. You went through a process called a suit to quiet tax title, sometimes called session. And you send a little certified mail, a certified mail letter to the old address. It's usually blighted property. It's usually property that no one's living in or no one cares about. It's been 3 generations of ownership that have rolled through, and there's now 35 owners, and no one's taking care of it or tending the property, and the taxes aren't being paid. One cousin has been paying the taxes for the past 17 years. They got tired of paying the taxes because they can't disseminate the ownership of the property. They said, why am I paying the taxes if I'm never going to get the benefit of property? So we used to just do a simple process where you run a little legal ad in the legal section of the paper, so the certified mail to the older friend. Then we'd stand in front of a judge, and the judge would find that the tax sale process was done, and we'd have big title to the property, and banks won money against it. That all ended with this terrible United States Supreme Court decision in 2006 out of Arkansas. All right, ever since that time, it's been screwed up and hard to fix. It's to shorten out. The new constitutional amendment that Brad just talked about may make it worse. So, what was your question again before I got off on my rant?
How do the tax sales?
All right, so if you want to do anything with property, you got to own it. If you want to sell it, you got to own it. If you want to seek a variance through the city, you got to own it. If you want to mortgage your property, you got to own it. If you want to give it to your granddaughter, you got to own it. Well, if you got tax sale property, you got 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 people owning the property. You gotta all own it to do anything with it. This is what this whole thing's about, is that you gotta get ownership into one person or into 2 or 3 people who are going to agree to do something with the property. You can't go indefinitely. We got one case over there right now with the Southwest Louisiana Law Center Project Build a Future. We got 21 owners. 21 owners on about a $30,000 piece of property with a dilapidated house that's trying to get hurricane money to fix the house. Well, in order to do that, we need all 21 people to sign off and agree, right? And you know how that's going to work out? Not good. So
And the beat taught laughter by
I got excited. Hey, try to keep the property. As Marcus, the mayor said at the beginning, try to get your property all within one person. Don't let generations go through without transferring the ownership. It leads to tax sale problems. And then when property goes to tax sale, it's never merchantable because all those 21 owners have to get notice and they never get notice. So tax sale property is usually that.
Correct. So, as Mr. Judson indicated, tax sale properties, and I've indicated, huge issue from a title examiner standpoint. Hopefully, we'll get some resolution. But as far as how it affects the community, if you have a property that's not merchantable, people aren't going to buy it. People aren't going to put money into it. People aren't going to improve it. It's going to ultimately end up, blighted, overthrown, and that pulls and detracts from the overall, beautification and well-being of the community. So the less tax sale properties, the better. Want to keep property merchantable. You want to keep it in the stream of commerce. You want to have people, be it businesses, individuals, investors coming in and improving property, continuing to build, continuing to construct. And when you have properties that you can't get that title insurance on because they're not merchantable, all of that stops. And when that stops, progress stops. That leads to a good thing.
And why? What, since we talked about tax sale properties and clear titles, what are some of the risks when property is sold without a clear title being money to?
Well, just like Mr. Judson alluded to earlier, that court case that back in 2006, it kind of changed everything. Some of the risks, if you don't have clear title, is former owner to come back and say that's my piece of property, and you basically they've got to make you whole for it, but they can take it back from you. They can prove through the judicial system that they weren't given notice of the property sale. So you always want to be able to buy clear title because you don't ever want anybody coming back and making a third-party claim against your ownership rights in that property.
So in the instance of the 21 owners, if I took it upon myself to fix the house and just live in it, at any point the other 20 could come back and buy me out and take that from me.
That's absolutely correct.
That's good. Yeah. Let me give you a real life example. In the city of DeQuincy, we had a situation, hurricanes come through, right? And they mess up a manufactured home. City of DeQuincy and a lot of cities have ordinances that prohibit manufactured homes from being in the city limits. And it's a new thing after the hurricane, right? So the old manufactured home got wiped out. A charity comes along, gives landowner a new manufactured home. Well, they got to seek a variance. They got to seek a zoning variance in order to get the manufactured home back on plan. So when we went to look at the variance, the landowner didn't own the property. Turned out her deceased mother and her deceased stepfather were the last title owners of the property. The city council denied the request for the variance because you got to own the property to request the variance. So fortunately, this person went through the Southwest Louisiana Law Center Project Village Income Program and was able to become the owner of the property through doing succession stuff. So if you don't own the property, you really can't do anything with it. That's the problem.
So, Judge Guidry, you alluded to the fact that people come to your court all the time with internet disabilities, and you can access bill templates, trust inputs on the internet. You alluded to the fact that these gentlemen have an education and we should seek legal counsel, but there are other professions such as notaries who can provide rules. What is the best course of action for someone that has no idea where to start or where to begin, and the process that they should go through to get a writ?
Well, I suggest everyone do what some people do. Everyone knows, has contact with a lawyer, a friend, or a friend that has a lawyer. Make that contact. Get some recommendations. Notaries can do wills, but they can't do successions. When I spoke earlier on legal advice, that can be some advice that a notary can give. But be very careful when you're seeking legal advice. Legal advice, in my opinion, you're asking me, should come from a lawyer who's trained in the law. Notaries can do certain limitations, but some jeopardize. I had succession about 2 or 3 months ago that a notary did and filed as a lawyer. You cannot practice law if you have a law license. I politely called that notary, made that suggestion. And I think they followed my suggestion. And I left it alone because I didn't track that down. But make contacts. Look, places like this, man, just ask questions. I know we committed. I believe we all committed. If not, I think I just made a commit. Just stay a little after. Come run up. We are here offering our time. So don't pass on this opportunity. If you have some questions, if you want to get some advice. Not long, though, because I'm getting paid. They don't get paid unless they work. But reach out and don't be afraid, because what happens is, and stop it now. Whatever's going on with your property right now, stop it right now. Start doing your succession. Start doing your wills. Because what happens is it'll be 3 or 4 generations before you try to correct something. The railroad spills something, everybody sues, and everybody wants to make a claim because their mama's property is right by the railroad. But you have to track down relatives that are in Virginia and maybe in jail, and they're not returning your mail. And it gets very, very complicated. So stop it right now. If you think it's going to get better with no will, it won't. It'll only get worse. And if you really love your loved ones, you want to send something to them or leave something to them, as Mayor Simeon suggested, put it in writing now.
Amen.
To follow Judge Guidry, we'll stop it now. I'll ask each of you to give one final remark about what you would suggest somebody would do first, or to make sure that they do it within their process of getting a will or a trust. And that,
Hey, sure. Okay. Only those who are going to die one day need a will. Everybody else ain't got to worry about it. Only those that are going to die one day. People ask me, at what age do I need a will? 18. At age 18, you need a will. If you do, if you care about your loved ones and you want your loved ones to have an easy time after your death, the best thing you can do is do what Judge Guidry said and meet with an attorney and plan what to do. Even if you think it's super simple, even if you think it's not a big deal, still meet with an attorney and plan in the advanced planning now. While you don't need it right now is the best time to do it. When you're near death or you have a terminal illness or something like that, you got to deal with other things. Do it now while there's no critical emergency going on.
Yeah, and I would say to follow up on that, don't leave it to chance. There are laws that determine or dictate what happens to your property if you don't have a will. And sometimes those laws don't coincide with what your wishes would be. And so if you have distinctive wishes and you have a certain plan in your head, I would advise you to A, figure out what your current ownership of the property is. You may have been paying taxes, as was referenced earlier, but it may not be your name on the tax assessment. If that's your situation, you need to talk to somebody like one of us or another attorney or another person with legal expertise, because we need to start getting that cleared up. That's the first sign that the ownership and action are not in unison. And so I would say, number one, find out what the current ownership status of your property is. And number two, don't leave it to chance. If you have an idea or a plan, we need to sit down, we need to start documenting that plan, and we need to put it into a valid, enforceable will so that that plan can be executed once you have passed on. Otherwise, like I said, there are laws in place that are going to dictate where that property goes. And in some situations, that can be not only not in line with your wishes, but contrary to what you may have wished. So just get out in front of it.
Yeah, I agree with everything said. I want to reiterate what Judge Geary said. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Call somebody's office, ask a friend, do what you need to do, but there's no stupid questions. We hear all sorts of things, and we help try to navigate. It's our job to help lead you down that legal path that you're not familiar with. So don't be afraid to ask a question. It takes a team. You're going to need an attorney to help you with a will, or trust. If you think you want to trust or set up an LLC or something of that nature, you're probably also going to need a tax professional. Again, just reach out to your community and ask those questions.
I'd like to thank you, gentlemen. Yes, pretty much everything is tossed such the finance now that I'll pass that state up my name to say shout that to the fields of I was told that during the last session I didn't speak focused that he takes high heavy light country. I'm the chief deputy assessor now being Parish. I'm here on behalf of our assessor from Aguilar in the mayor office was great to share property. For Advil for the taxation, and we apply to good morning. Up here, I choose is there a light on?
Good morning. I'm Shelley Dudas. I'm representing Kipper Life Insurance. Most of you all may know it as former Union National Insurance.
And so that's just a cat. They keep Adam season that week.
Good morning. My name is Caitlin Wall. I just live right River Bank here in Lake Charles.
Play was.
Okay, Elijah, I'll start with you because a lot of people may be wondering if you're talking about financial planning, why is there someone from a few it was what our intention with Paul's?
Well,
Just with that one.
as Mark said, only if you plan on dying, you're going to need a will. And so it actually all goes hand in hand. A lot of people come to the funeral homes and, and of course, they come walking into funeral homes and they're lost. They're not sure which direction to go. And so financial planning is definitely something that is needed because we can pre-fund your funeral. Where you lock in your estate prices for your funeral, you may die 20, 30 years from now. But if you lock in your prices today, at that time, your family does not have to worry about it. They're already grief-stricken. And so at that point, your wishes will be upheld, your finances will be upheld, and things that, when you plan your funeral, everything will already be done as that most.
I'm going to say, choosing.
What mistakes do families make when they don't set up these things in advance? What sorts of problems can happen at the end if there are issues?
Well, I guess one of the things would be wishes not upheld. There may be a person wants to, have a full funeral, bury, what have you, but because their financial situation is not as what they had planned it to be, they may have to have a cremation. And then, other family members may not like that, what have you, or again, that's not what they actually wanted. So if you pre-plan, you have things in line now, at that time, everything will be done as you would see fit.
Shelley and Elijah, I'll pose this to you. What are the differences and or related ideas between life and death insurance?
Well, it's one and the same, real. More so with the death, life insurance, what it is. Okay. As as you purchase life insurance. And nowadays, everyone needs to have a life insurance policy. For one, some people may take it and have a larger policy where they say this is a savings for children's education, for other financial needs after your passing. Or some may just have as Elijah said, a pre-need policy, something that would just take care of your services and your arrangements at that time upon your passing. But life insurance is very important for us to have nowadays. I do work with Elijah as a funeral mother, and we see families come in all the time that may not have any insurance at all, and now are having to sit at the table to try to figure out how. But we don't want to leave our families in that situation. My kids have said, please don't leave me sitting at a table with nothing. So it is very important for us to take into consideration our loved ones after our passing, because we are responsible for our family as well. I've had people to tell me, when I'm gone, they can do whatever they want to do with me, But guess what? It costs something to do nothing with you, or do whatever they want with you. It does cost, okay? All right?
I often say, I wish legislation would be made. As citizens, we all have to have car insurance if you drive a vehicle. You have to have house insurance if you own a home. And you have those things. You have health insurance as well. You have those things in the chance something may happen. However, it's not mandated to have life insurance in the case something will happen. Life, you will pass away, but it's not mandated that you have life insurance to help you or your family out. However, you have to have car insurance if you drive a car on the roads of Louisiana. You have to have house insurance if you own a vehicle, if you own a home in Louisiana. But I often wish that they would make us all have life insurance because it helps your family in that time. I also say that maybe, while I'm living, we're not able to, have $1 billion in the bank or what have you for our family, but maybe once we pass away, if we have the proper vehicle of life insurance, we can leave $1 billion or more for our children. And so they can become millionaires as we go, as Shelley said, they can have money for their education and different things. And again, if their life could be basically a sovereign to get free their data.
We've heard Shelley speak about being an insurance agent and selling life insurances. Caitlin's from a financial lender or lending institution perspective. Is that something that if I already have a relationship with my bank, I can approach them about? Can I keep all my eggs in one basket? And is there a good reason or not to do that?
I think there's various different aspects to that. Most financial institutions give have an area, a financial area that people can reach out to talk about any kind of life insurances. Also to talk about, maybe if you do have a trust in place, maybe you have some sort of assets, and upon my death, a trust is made to, maybe I have some children who are special needs, maybe I have younger children, and I'm just afraid that if I'm going to die at a young age, what's going to happen with this money? I don't want to give a 17-year-old access to, this life insurance money. So they can help to navigate. There are pluses and minuses to this. Generally, if you are with a bank, you already have that trust in that institution. These people that you see on a regular basis, there are freestanding places that do this as well. With your bank, more often than not, this is a free service that is provided to you. If you go to an outside agency, sometimes those are not free. There's fees involved with that.
I think maybe some of that is just going wherever you feel comfortable. There's nothing wrong with going to your bank if you feel comfortable with that individual, having those conversations, meetings of all different kinds, and then maybe getting a second opinion. Or maybe there's a friend of a friend who really loves their person, and you go and you talk to them, and then maybe you follow it up with your bank for those free service, just to see if everybody's aligned on the same path. Shelley, back to you. Those life insurance policies, can they also help me maintain my properties or prepare for my properties to be passed on, paying back taxes or other things, so that I don't have to potentially maybe go and see Miss Elaine at the assessor's office to see if reclaiming my property back? Or there are ways that one can help in another, one life insurance policy can help in different areas?
When you have that life insurance policy, or when you purchase a life insurance policy, you have to assign a beneficiary. And so your beneficiary has to be a person that is going to be responsible for taking care of whatever whatever you leave behind that is unpaid, any unpaid balances anywhere. And as you said, taxes and different things like that, especially if it's a person that passes away and they own a home. And, you know, of course, we have to pay taxes every year, or however your taxes are set up for you to pay. Your beneficiary would contact the assessor's office to let them know of the passing of that person. And they would in turn find out if they have any balances open, anything owed, in order for them to clear out. And your life insurance policy would be something that is used to do that. So, and not just your taxes, but anything, your life insurance policy, you know. And in thinking about a life insurance policy, you really don't want to just think about, let me just get a $5,000 policy, and that'll possibly handle my arrangements. You want to be able to get a policy, purchase a policy that will take you beyond just your arrangements, because there's so many things that are after a person passes away. There are so many other financial obligations that are still on the line that need to be taken care of. A lot of people think, oh, when I pass away, all my debt passes away too. That's not true. Your family, if you owe someone, if you have financial obligations and open outstanding bills, different places, they will come to the next of kin to collect that. And so we don't want our next of kin to have to be dealing with the hardships of our negligence and possibly on obligations that we still have that owing. So you need a insurance policy. You need an insurance policy. It's no way around it, okay? Because when we pass here, it's not about they can do whatever they want to do with me, because guess what? They still, I'm saying it again, need finances, okay? Or to take care of the whatever they want to do.
Elaine, in the panel before, we talked about the importance of clearing your property, making sure you had a clear title, wills, and succession implements. What are some of the reasons that you've seen at the assessor's office that people may lose or become endangered of losing family properties?
The biggest thing we see now is that we have as a society, and there is no succession to transfer that property. And let's say, for instance, they've had a homestead exemption, possibly a freeze on their value of these other benefits for their homestead properties. Those exemptions and those benefits fall away. And if a family member is living in a home where there has been a succession, that property is no longer eligible for a homestead exemption, because by law you have to be the owner of record and you have to live alone. Well, if the owner of record has passed away, that home is not eligible for that exemption, and now suddenly the person living in that home will get a tax notice from the sheriff's office for something that is much more than they were accustomed to paying. Possibly they never made because it's to put under an exemption and not had effect, and it would So that's the biggest thing was that we our offices that were able to apply those exemptions to the property.
In your answer, you mentioned the freeze and benefits. Can you expound on that?
Fan. For property owners who have a homestead exemption, that's the first thing. It's be your home that you live in, that you own. If you are 65 years of age or older, or if you are a disabled person through Social Security, or if you're a disabled veteran, we can freeze your property's value if you meet a household income limit of probably it's $100,000 a year. We can freeze your value. And what that's done is, our office is required by law to reassess property every 40 years. And what that means is we place a new value on it. We update the value for what's current in market. But if you have a freeze, you are protected from that reassessment. So your value stays the same. So let's say you're 65 and you're going to live until you're 95 years old. Your value is still from 30 years ago, and it can, in essence, keep your taxes relatively the same. Although, just to go up and down, to be able to get at it. It just kind of, so that you can lock into whatever your budget is at that time, with 30 years from now, hopefully your taxes is still the same.
That's great to know. So if you are aging and you're thinking it only will get more expensive as I age, there are ways that will help that through insurance, just walk through freezes with the assessor's office and being able to cover that. What other role can the assessor's office play in helping families avoid losing generational wealth? Are there other services that the tax assessor's office provides, or something? Hotline number that we can call and ask questions.
So when a family comes in, they're concerned about this. They live in mom's home and mom's passed away, and what do they do? We'll send them to someone like Mr. Judson. We'll say you need legal advice. That's not our department. What we do is we appraise, we keep on ownership, and we apply exemptions that are willing along. Another thing that we'll do is they have a tank approved. We'll send them up to the locks that are there upstairs for us. My understanding is they work in society scale, and that is the great avenue for people if they need financial coverage. Just give us their property less than partnership.
Still think that's
In the previous panel, we talked about, again, getting a will or a trust. And we know that there are family documents that you have to have whenever you go to do that. What are some of the documents that you may need in order to plan for end of life or to get insurance? I don't Are there any documents if I want to prearrange my end of life arrangements, what do I need to have to bring to you? Do I have to have life insurance when I go to the teacher?
Well, no, you don't need life insurance. We definitely work with everyone. But the main thing is to have information. Oftentimes when you're prepared for your death, or even when you're doing your pre-planning, there's information that's needed. And a lot of this information, of course, needed for the death certificate and what have you, that you say that you're planning for your parents. Well, you have to know their parents' information and where they're born. Oftentimes, especially if someone's younger, they may not know where Papa was born or where Mama was born, what Mama's maiden name was, what have you. That's information that you need to know. Also, if you're military, you need to have your DD-214. Your DD-214 will allow us to provide military honors at your burial. So if you are military, make sure you or your family know exactly where your DD-214 is, because you cannot have your military honors without that document. Sometimes it's hard to get, in a matter of a week, once you pass away. So it's mainly information that you need, family information, as well as documents such as you do have your insurance, you'll bring that as well, your policy. Also with your beneficiaries, and this is not to step over Shelley, she can definitely elaborate more on this. Your beneficiaries, oftentimes as married couples, you're each other's beneficiary, other's beneficiary for the wife's insurance and vice versa. Well, unfortunately, if someone passes away, make sure you change that beneficiary of the next person. Because if in the rare chance or unlikely chance that the next person will pass away, your beneficiary now is deceased. And so you have two deceased beneficiaries that have death certificates and your whole lot of things to now prove that the first person's passed away. It goes into the heirs, and then that person will have to assign a new beneficiary to go to the funeral home and what have you. So it's a lot of work to do. Not impossible, but again, just make sure your beneficiaries are always current. And that's also even in the banking industry. Make sure your beneficiaries there, you have beneficiaries on your accounts or POD account, TOD account, transfer on death, or payable on death. Make sure those names are actually current. Because again, at that time, when something happens, there's going to be to it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I know when my mother passed, there were a lot of things that were made easier for us because she had taken the opportunity to put those things in place. However, there's always something that pops up that you aren't always prepared for. So in the preparation of my own will and trust building, I also realized that all the people that I know that I would trust to leave my things to in my age group, which makes it very hard because they may or may not be here at the time of my pass. So what do you suggest, or how do you suggest someone go about, what would you need to have in place to put someone as your beneficiary, or someone who is your executor, or the person who then takes care of you once you're gone?
A beneficiary, if they are 18 or older, and we have some 18-year-olds that are very mature. And it's not saying that the 18-year-old is going to outlive the 50 or 60-year-old, you know? But you have, again, I can't say it enough, you have to have someone that is mature enough to take care of your business once you're gone. They, in turn, would have to have all of their proper documentation in order to be beneficiary. When I say documentation, driver's license, social security number, date of birth, these are things that are required in order to be a beneficiary. And everything has to be valid. You can't use an expired, not even to purchase an insurance policy, you can't use an expired driver's license or ID, identification, and it has to be the state issue identification. It can't be just a temporary ID, or I know like for some with that have handicap tags, you also get an identification with a from the state of Louisiana, but we cannot use that. So we have to have the actual state issued ID. It has to have identification on it. It has to have state driver's license on it, state issue. So, and I want to say this, add this on too. The older you get, the more expensive your premium will get. You have to purchase your policy. I tell you, beat your birthday. Beat your birthday, because when your birthday comes, you know, and you do not, and you're wanting to purchase a policy, but if you're 69 and you need a policy, you need to get it before you turn 70, because those premiums go up a little bit more than what a regular premium at 69 would be. So, and I don't know, I find in the insurance, being in the insurance industry, what I found is people have a fear of purchasing a policy. Some people have said to me that I'm wishing death upon myself, if I purchase a policy. I said, that's nonsense, okay? But you need it. You're gonna have it. And the best time to buy a policy, to start a policy, is when your baby is first born. And you can carry that policy. I take payments now from people that have had policies. They're like 30-something years old now, but they had a policy. Somebody put a policy, their parents put a policy on them when they were a baby, and they're only paying $3 a month. Still, today, or $6 a month. You know what I'm saying? On a $5,000 or $10,000 policy. You can add on to those policies, but it's going to be at the age that you are now that your premium is going to be associated with. So, but if you don't have a policy, listen to this. You need to get one because it takes 2 years for that policy to go active, for you to be paid full benefit, full face amount. Okay? So if you don't have one, it's needed and it's necessary.
Let's go have it.
Yes. Thank you for that. Caitlin?
As far as the banking aspect goes, you have various ways that you can put people on your accounts. You can list somebody as a POD, which is a payable on death. Most of the time, you need to know very basic information regarding that individual name. If you can give us an address, a date of birth, even better if they can come in so we can get their driver's license or ID. Then what that does is when you pass, they will come in and they will bring proof of your passing, your death certificate. And then those funds will be released to whoever the payable on deaths were. If it just happened to be one individual, or if it happened to be a few different individuals, then it will be divided amongst however many people were on there. That's a way to not have the money in that particular account go through probate. The other thing that you can do, Michelle was talking about having somebody, she was talking about the 18-year-old. Maybe you do have somebody in your life that is very, very, very responsible, and you know that you're facing some sort of health issue. You can go out, and we talked about power of attorneys earlier. You can get power of attorneys and put those on the account for if you know you're going to go through some health issues. Have some time, put that person that if I'm in the hospital and bills are needed to be paid or there's decisions that need to be done for me, you can put that on your bank account. That is perfectly fine, and it'll be put on there. The other thing is you can, if you feel comfortable with this individual and you don't think that there's going to be any issues, you can also put them on your account. But what that also means is they can do just as you can do. So if they want to come in and pull money from the account, the bank will not tell them no. This has to be an agreement between the two of you and somebody that you feel very close to that will not take all the money from the account. If they're safe, they will continue to pay your bills for you. They will handle the funds just as you would hope that they would, in your best interest.
Thank you guys for your information and your takes on how planning for financial life after as you age in your different areas. But as we get ready to leave, I'd ask each of you to give one parting word of advice or one thing that you think someone here today should do first and maybe making the steps.
I know this.
Hold on, let's deal with them. Oh, I would just say prepare. That's the name of the game. Prepare. Be ever ready. Information is key. Speaking to someone, of course, speaking to someone at the funeral home, I know from the lawyers, but for us, it doesn't cost a lot. Just come and speak to us. We're your resource. Let us be that resource. Information that you have, all the times people flip into a safe or something at home, what have you, that your family would know about it. You can definitely do that. You can also give all your information, and we have file cabinets at funeral home. So if something does happen, all your heirs have to do is just give a call. Everything's already there. No questions asked. They don't have to ramble through paper. Oh, I know Mom, I had this paperwork here somewhere. I don't know where it is. That your mind is already scattered because of the grief. Bring everything to the funeral home. We leave it there. The time call, we do pull the file, and everything's just really simple. So again, the parting word I would just say is prepare and be ever ready. That's what come.
Things.
Well, I'll echo the same. Prepare. If you are a homeowner, be sure that you, like they said in the last panel, have a will, that your children know how to go through the process, so that a succession can be filed, so that your amount that you've worked so hard or in transfer to your children and his family members or another loved one. So just prepare. And if you are someone who is on the other side of it, is someone that can prepare, and now you don't know what to do. For us, we're going to always tell you, go have that succession done. because we can do any type of transfer until I have weeks. And see that.
What's up? Desire.
And you're feeling this stuff. I know this whole event is not just based on death, but death is an appointment that none of us can change. We can't reschedule it. And we can't transfer our time. It's not a hair appointment, so it just is, and it is gonna happen. And as they said, we have to be prepared. I think someone said earlier about preparing, as you're preparing, we prepare to, he was saying about homeowners insurance and vehicle insurance and medical insurance. You need life insurance as well. And I second what he said, I wish that it was mandated, because so many people come in to the funeral home and they are at a loss of word. They're at a loss because you're no longer there. They're just at a loss because there's nothing there. You did not leave anything in order to take care of your passing. Your whole life insurance, you can borrow on that policy.
Yeah.
You can borrow on a whole life policy.
You don't really need that.
There. Let me tell you the difference. You can borrow on that whole life policy.
So that.
But if you pass away and it's not, example, $10,000 policy, you borrow $5,000. You pass away and it's that $5,000 is not paid back into that policy, your family only received $5,000.
It's a big client.
Okay? You don't have to pay the entire balance. It's not like it's on a monthly payment plan that you're having to pay each month, but you do have to pay it back and be paying towards it. Okay? Term policy, there's a term policy, term to 65, for example. Okay? When you turn 65 years old, that policy goes away.
Wait, huh?
Go away.
Okay? It goes away. It's no longer valid. It's no longer a policy. You paid years into that term life policy. Say, for instance, if you got it at 18 and you have outlived that policy, and you don't have nothing else in place. Now you're 65 and you need another policy. It's going to cost you more for that policy now than it did back then. So the choice is yours, but at the same time, I encourage people to get both, because that term policy is a policy that may be, like Elijah said, the $1 million policy, the $250,000 policy, the higher policy, okay, that can be left to take care of all obligations that you have left behind. And your $10,000 whole life policy, you bring it to the funeral home to set your arrangements.
Deep.
So that's our term insurance only going in 65. You can't.
No. It depends on which policy, which term policy you buy. It depends on which one you buy. There's different ages on it. And also, there's a guarantee issue policy. I hear a lot of people say, I'm sick, or, the parents are sick and I can't buy a policy, or somebody have a certain disability and they heard they can't buy a policy. That's kind of not true. Of course, you have a medical profile that the insurance companies, they go through like a credit report. They go through your medical report to see actually what the disability or the ailment is before they approve your policy. So don't think that just because you have some type of sickness or disability that you can't get a policy.
Catering, your last words of advice?
That's it.
Here's anything going black.
Development.
Say it again. 2 years.
You can say it in 6 years.
Yes, ma'am.
The full.
Yes, ma'am. It's any policy that you purchase nowadays, usually your policy would just kick into effect as soon as you sign your papers years ago, but now that's not. So you have that 2-year contestable season.
And then what? I'll need some agents.
I think the biggest takeaway is your family is going to be dealing with so much grief because you are no longer here. The best thing that you can do is leave them a roadmap, a binder, a folder, something as a way to be able to know what and how to proceed. So there's tons of vendors in here. It might be a copy of something that they pre-planned through the funeral home. Maybe you didn't even realize that. But, you opened up this binder that they always said, if I get hit by a bus, look in the binder. It'll tell you what to do. And then you're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize this. It's what they wanted. Oh, look, they pre-planned. Look, they paid for this. One last thing. I didn't know that they had a life insurance policy. Maybe it's a photocopy. It's not the actual, it's just a photocopy, so it's someplace to go. It's contact information. I didn't know where they kept all their bank accounts. They would never talk about that. But you know what? Here's a copy of a statement, or it's just written down. This is what I have where. This is where my retirement accounts are. Just a roadmap for your families, and so that they're just not wandering around lost, because afterwards they just can't pick up the phone and publish it.
Yes. Thank you all so much for your time today on the panel. As someone who lost her mother recently and had to navigate that path, it is a tough conversation to have with your family, but it is a conversation that you all should have with your children and or loved ones, so that they know where to find your information and what it is that you would like once you're gone. And you're right. This is not just a panel today about death, but unfortunately, that's a lot of times when a lot of the issues that happen to future generations transpire is upon the passing of someone. So planning your life is also planning for the end of your life and the forward movement of your choice.
Are you just up to I don't sure.
You're fine.
Come on all. Corey Wilson, the Florida Assistant City Attorneys here for City Control.
What it gives me sir.
On Powell Broussard, on the supervised property standards for the
State by Charles. I'm Donna Rubin. I'm going to be Deputy Parish Sheriff's Office. I'm working with tax division. The first two panels were revolving around wills and successions and clearing heirship issues, and then we just heard those talk about insurances and end-of-life arrangements, making sure that your assets could be passed on from a generational standpoint. What is one word of advice to kick this off that each of you might give to the audience members to say regarding their current properties when it comes to governmental policies, city policies, standards that they should be aware of, and what impact it has on their future generations?
I would say make sure you have clear title to the properties that you would building or quantum by purchase sale. Make sure there's no maintenance on there or judgment. Particularly I would need out a grass leaf, a film demolition or meetings. We have administrators hearing for resistance to code violations and get off to take us and assess a fine costs and penalties. You don't want to purchase property like other property. You can just say there's worth $6,000 had grass leaves and all kind of land, ended up to about $12,000. You're underwater. I would say pay insurance now, clear title, multiple title, where's the asset?
I believe so. They did hospitality.
I would add also what Mr. Ruben is saying too, over something even as simple as that. Check your bill. The city does a great job, the legal department does a phenomenal job of trying to openly communicate with people about the conditions and what's going on with their property. And we think a lot of times it's just mismail notices, things like that. So check your bill. I know as the councilman, we get out the Sunday day take care of people out, but a lot of times people don't show up. I know some top people, it's like they show stuff. But stay to play. Check your mail. If you are unable to make it to a city council meeting, you could be better.
There you go, yeah.
So I'll start over. The main thing I think is to check your mail. I tell people all the time, if you check your mail, I think the city legal department does a phenomenal job of trying to overly communicate with people. They often send certified mail, And believe it or not, some of the mail that pertains to your property is sent back undeliverable. So I always tell people, stay informed about what's going on with your property. But if I know sometimes financially it doesn't be appropriate, but at the same time, try to take care of successions and wills. A lot of times when we blight property or knock property down, it's usually because it's tied up to things like that, over accumulation of liens and things that property standards has placed upon them just because of violations. So the main thing I can say is just check your mail, try to stay in the know, and call City Hall as much as possible. If there's action outlines, goals.
From the property standards point of view, get a list of properties that your loved one owns or your family member owns. Go put an eye on it. Make sure that you have a regular maintenance crew that is taking care of that property. Because ultimately, here in the city of Lake Charles, we do have inspectors that survey the areas, and we do get complaints about properties that are blighted with chalk, grass, debris, vacant lots, somebody's dumping on your family's vacant lot. Make sure you just don't ignore that property. Go and put an eye on it. Make sure it's being maintained. Do regular visits. And ultimately get a list of properties that your family member owns so that you can be responsible for that.
From the property standpoint, anything that property sales will put on as far as a lien, it will be added to your actual property taxes. So they send you out letters. It's best to pay attention to those letters and get them paid before it comes and attached to the actual taxes, because then it has interest and penalties added to it along with the property taxes. They're mailed out every year by November. They're due by December 31st. Do we like it? No. It's Christmas time. No one wants to pay taxes. We don't want to pay taxes, but we are required to pay taxes, and we're required to mail them out. So by December 31st, the best thing to do is to pay those taxes timely, to avoid interest, to avoid penalties. That will help out with everyone, even with the entities, because when we collect taxes, it's dispersed to the cities and to the parish.
Ms. Donna, since you have the mic, what happens if at that moment I get a tax notice and I didn't realize that a piece of property had been left to me or was mine that I'm now responsible for, and I don't have all the money that's needed since those liens are added to that tax bill? What are my options at that point?
There aren't any options when it comes to taxes, because it's inevitable. You live, you die, and you must pay taxes in between. So that is a given. There is no leeway for Heirship, and there's no leeway. So there's no partial payments. Taxes are due because that money is dispersed to the entire Catholic parish.
Councilman Harvey, from your perspective, what if I inherit a blighted property? What can I do with that? Obviously, if it fell into blight or was lost, family members didn't have the money to maintain it, and now it becomes my responsibility. What are my options at that point?
I would say be proactive and contact your local city council. The reason why is because through the process that we have in place at the city of Lake Charles, it's going to end up being several violations of overall property standards, and then when it gets time to properly go into demolition mode, it's going to come before us. Again, communication. If you know you receive a property like that and you know it's something that you can't do immediately, I would encourage you to contact your councilman. I can speak for myself and the other six colleagues, other six councilmen. We're always going to try to help someone. There isn't no one who's not willing to give extensions. We defer things all the time. You watch city council meetings. We defer things for 60 days, 90 days, sometimes 120 days, as long as there's actionable steps. And that actionable steps can be things like simply cutting the grass, boarding the house up, simple things like that. Just trying to manicure the bit, just so it's not an odd stuff. We need to see action and stuff. So that could be something as simple, like I say, just cutting the grass, watering the house up, make sure it's not over or a safety risk.
And I'll pose this to you and Ms. Donna. If I did just receive this, someone maybe recently passed away and left something to me, and I don't have clear ownership of it yet, what is the first thing that I do in that instance? Because I'm going to be responsible for those taxes, but I don't clearly own it because a succession maybe hasn't been filed. What are the options that I have at that point?
As the city will recognize them as the airmen. They show the child or the grandchild that the deceased, especially they bring a death certificate or obituary. It shows that they're related to their family. That's what we think. Because it's happened to come out. The best thing is to continue to find like succession and get the ownership of the thing you thought it was. Next best thing is to take, like Mr. Harvey says, take care of the problem. Come to the city with you. What's the those for?
I did. Well, when someone has lost a loved one, it's very difficult. It makes it difficult for us to also notify you without a succession. So if you're in the middle of a succession, it's best for you to go to the parish assessor's office and provide information so that you can be notified. That would help and benefit you and our office. If you do that part by notifying the assessor, they in turn will notify our office to send you a bill. Because we only have the record owner is deceased. So successions not being filed is a hardship for everyone. But if you take the initiative to go in and notify the assessor so that we can notify you, it will make things a lot easier.
And Mr. Harvey, as a city councilman, what role do these financial penalties pay, the liens and all the other things that may happen to blighted property in preventing them from turning around and being reintroduced into the community? How many blighted properties do we have, and how many of those are blighted because people can't afford to pay those back?
I'm gonna be honest, and I'm just throw a percentage out there. I would say probably about 50%. I can't speak for all the other council members, but I know I'm gonna say for District 8, which is pretty much everything from Penson Rider all the way here, including the lakefront, all the way to Rainbow Lane, which heads towards 397. In my last 2 years as being the council, I know we've had over close to 200 properties that's been deemed blighted or Lake Charles, which is considered one of the most underserved areas, but also one of the most blighted areas, and one of the areas that hasn't truly recovered from our last couple of hurricanes. I will say this though, property standards, and I'm not saying because she's sitting right here, but Ms. Paul and her department has done a phenomenal job in trying to be better for all. And a lot of times people don't understand that double standard. Sometimes when you're trying to help people are struggling to make a recovery, but at the same time you're trying to assist that property when it takes to a blighted property. Sometimes you get caught in the middle. So we do try to do what's best for this issue at all times, but we have to make sure too that we have a standard to uphold in the city of Lake Charles, and we want everybody to be living in a good, safe, something to brag for the community. So again, I tell people all the time, we get people who come before council and they don't have the financial means. They're emotionally distraught. So we care about the people close. There isn't a time that no matter what the situation is, we are not willing to give additional problems. And I say that because we're almost 5 years from the last hurricane, and we still have people without blue tarps and properties that are not livable. We were using to knock them down, and that's what we're trying to help them. Mr. Ruben with the legal department can tell you that we have several programs that's kind of like exhausted at this point now. Not just a state program like Restore, but the city had a program in place where we named CBDG funded, which was recovery-based funding to be able to assist all residents. I will say that we probably could have done a better job of communicating it out consistently to the public. But at this time, those programs are kind of like inspired. It's like without funding, there's hundreds of poems that have helped. But I think the main thing we can do is just communicate. I think that's the easiest, say that requires the least amount of energy. But sometimes if you pick up a phone call, pick up the phone, make a call. If you don't have the ability to email, just get someone to come and speak up for you. I guarantee, because we'll extend people's speak.
Ms. Paula, how can people find out about property standards? Where would they go to even know if they are in violation, or if they have inherited properties, what they need to do to be able to keep them up?
They just call the city of Lake Charles, and they will be either transferred to my office or one of the ladies that works in the office, and we'll give them whatever information that they need. If they do have an active violation or past bills, we'll try to help them. We'll try to do whatever we can. We give time to take care of the property. you know, we will work with whatever family member wants to take responsibility for that property. We'll give out, you know, we have contractors on our rotation list. We'll give out that list to them. We have demolition contractors on our list. We'll try to contact them for them if they have a hardship. We have contractors that do pro bono work. You know, we'll try to get them linked up with somebody that can help them to get their property compliant.
Also, I think it's important to control the narrative at this point too. I think a lot of things that's kind of been pushed out is misconstrued information. Misconstrued information. The city of Lake Charles is not in the business of taking people property. I think a lot of times people feel like if you don't pay this, you don't pay that, that the city comes.
It does like,
Say it's okay. Please.
Is that they think we're in the business of taking people property, but there's a thing called adjudicated properties, and that's a lengthy process. I don't know if we have the platform to thoroughly explain that. That's Mr. Rubin's expert area. But at the same time, we're not in the business of taking people property. I think a lot of times people think that the city just take property. We just want you to more so take care of the property. We're not just taking people's property, but the adjudicated process was Mr. Rubin can probably explain that.
Mr. Rubin, would you like to expound on that?
Yeah, the adjudicated property, that's, we do sell properties of city through a company called Silly Source for the North Lake Charles. They're South of Broad, the Capture Parish Police Church sells. That's the adjudicated property sales for the city. But those are after the property's been adjudicated for 3 years, they're eligible for sale to a third party. They can sit there for 30 years, they can sit there for forever until someone shows interest and put a deposit down to initiate the sale. But what we try to do is get these properties, if they're not they're taken care of, sold to a third party that will take care of the properties. But also the purpose of sending these notices out to family members before the properties is sold, so the family members can pay the property back. They go back to the Diamond office, bring the back taxes and any things that the city may have wanted, and they'll give a redemption certificate saying that the property's back is fact. And we get a lot of those. So as Mr. Harvey said, we're not here to take anybody's property. We're here to put it back in the hands of the family. They want it. And a third party that will take care of the properties.
What does the city do, excuse me, with all of the properties in its inventory for adjudicated property? Does the city have to tend to those properties if no one is, if it doesn't belong to anyone legally? And then how does that impact the city and its ability to move forward?
Right now, we have a list of properties that we contracted out. There's 353 properties on that list that we take care of once a month. It costs us a little over $12,000 a month to take care of those properties. And we have another list that I'm about to bid out that's around 252 properties for they're not being taken care of, that are under 3 years adjudicated. And adjudicated ultimately means that the family is not paying the taxes. It still belongs to them. The city does own them. It just means that they're not paying the taxes. The city ultimately takes care of those properties, either through our regular job out process, which if we touch a piece of property, it's $250 to cut that piece of property. So it is a costly endeavor that the city has to take care of these properties to keep the city looking good. In North Lake Charles, I know Mr. Harvey spoke about 50% or about 50%. It's costly for the city to take care of those properties. So ultimately, we would like for someone in the family to redeem the property. If they can't redeem it, then just take care of it. You know, it still belongs to the family. Just because they let go of it doesn't mean it doesn't belong to them.
In your years of dealing with blighted and adjudicated properties, what are some of the tried and true practices that you have found that may help us? A lot of properties were blighted and damaged due to the recent hurricanes in 2020. But the problem was there before, and this just added to it. So what can we as citizens and communities do to get those properties back into commerce and get them off of the sand roads?
This might sound like an unfair practice, but I know what I encourage a lot of my constituents is to not let the past barriers and the emotional attachment stay with the property. And I'm speaking being transparent, my family included. I think sometimes people tend to just be so emotionally attached to a residence or a piece of property that they just let it go by the wayside. They don't continue to pay for their taxes and things like that. So my thing is before, you sense that loved one may be, moving on to a different space or things like that, or before the property divides the family, just because of a total or because of financial situations, I always encourage people to try to sell the property. Try to sell the property or try to at least sell it to another family who's financially capable of taking care of the property. Because when you get to dealing with succession, things like that, it does become rather costly. Because sometimes you realize that the legal fees are deeper than the fees that's being assessed by the city. So I always encourage people, like, sit down, have that conversation with your family, make a decision on what you want to do with the property, and then, try to sell it, put it back into commerce, because that is a major problem, specifically for District 8, where if you drive through the District 8 area, most of our properties are tied up with liens or, succession issues, and there was a lack of a will. So just communicate with your family. Sometimes there may be somebody in the family who's in a better position to afford the property, or at least be able to maintain, at least it stays with the family, but if not, sell it to someone who's going to put something on it, whether it be a structure to bring people back home or make it double mean for rental property or whatever. But I just encourage people, sometimes the emotional attachment gets in the way, and I understand that. Like I said, my family is a sunny situation. But there's many nonprofits like Project Build the Future willing to absorb those properties. And you guys have done a phenomenal job of giving people accountable ownership opportunities. Their properties are built down in our facility. So there's many options out there. We've had people who actually donate the land, which I think is a good thing too. But I think it's just out there. Sometimes the emotional attachment to your center.
Mr. Rubin?
I put the same thing. If the family don't have the means to take care of the property, just get in the hands of a family that has, or be reasonable enough to sell it or donate it. And be reasonable enough to sell it for what the property is valued. Because with the understanding of how things are, or if it's the stress that is like the property, you're not going to get full value that you may want. You may have to sell it for less than what you want, but get from under their liability and get it to someone that can look at that get an asset. Property can be either a liability or asset. It's an asset if it's of value and can increase the value, but it's liability that it's cost. Like you're not in a position to keep the grass up or keep the house in good condition, or having junk vehicles on that property. Then clean it up, or tend to have it someone that can. I'll give you an example of how blighted property can affect not only the property value, but the lot itself, but it's the neighborhood. I had a friend who had rental property that he was trying to sell, put on market, and he was right next to a property that had a lot of junk cars. And when he did appraisal on his property, the appraiser told him, junk cars over there just cost you $30,000. Something just that something. And when he got on the neighbor, he came to us, came to the city, told me the situation. I think we sent a letter when those, from what I understand, when those vehicles were removed, just property value went back up. So even if dilapidated structures, there was a situation where someone had a dilapidated building, and once they tore it down, the empty lot was actually worth more than the dilapidated structure. So that's just examples of how blighted unkept property affecting property value, your property value, and the property value of the
Ms. Paula, do you have anything to add to that about what people can do?
Well, my suggestion is the same as Mr. Harvey. If you think that you can't take care of property, then absolutely sell it. Because after all,
your emotional attachment should be to the person and to the memory, not to a piece of property. So we have a lot that have 15, 16 owners because nobody actually, took the initiative to say, let's go ahead and sell it, or they're going to fight with each other, gridlock, and that property stays blighted. It goes to adjudication. We can't clear the title to sell it, so it just stays there with the city taking care of the property. So my big suggestion is to say, if you can keep up the property, bring it back into commerce, and please sell it.
On another standpoint, as far as taxes, heirs. Who are heirs? How do we know who heirs are? We don't unless you follow a succession. You determine your heirship on that note as far as heirs. And as far as property, if you don't pay your taxes, we don't want to sell your property, but we have to collect taxes in order for the city to operate as well as the parish. So if we can't collect it from you, then we have to bring it to an actual auction and sell it. And some are bid on by people out of Lake Charles. If they're not bid on out of Lake Charles, and they're adjudicated. So we ask you, please pay your taxes. If you're attached to the property, take care of it. Your loved ones work very hard for it. Something like that.
In the instance of any of us are out here who want to purchase some of those properties, maybe that's a way for me to start my generational wealth. Where would I find what properties are blighted or in those lists, and how would I go about being able to eventually purchase one of those?
As I said, if you history at North Lake Charles, north of Broad Street, basically, Hodges to Calvary Road, if you can picture that, up to the city limits. Company out of New Orleans named Civic Source facilitate ourselves. If you go to their website, www.civicsource.com, and you go to Capture Parish, the Lake Charles is all the city that's on their website. They have about, right now, they have about 150 properties listed. Or if you're interested in properties south of Broad Street or anywhere in Capture Parish, the Capture Parish Police area has a list. Miss Cardi in the planning department, development department can assist you with that. Jennifer Cardi, and Jeff, and then what the.
Well, I think one of the things that I've taken away from this is that all of you work in conjunction with each other. We oftentimes feel like there's only one person at the city to speak to, or that departments don't speak to other departments, but it sounds like everyone, if I go with a problem or a question, then I can get multiple views and multiple people to help me navigate through that. So thank you all for the work that you do in that and for working together. And are there any parting words that you have for the people out here with regards to their public property and the policies that surround it and its upkeep?
Like I keep going back to communication, but staying informed. I think the city again has done a great job, the parish as well, at utilizing their websites. I know that everybody's kind of moving to the digital age, but if you can visit the website, I know it's cpbj.net, and I think cityoflc.us. Not mistaken. I think there's a ton of information on the website, but even if you got access to your phone, YouTube, I know everybody's on YouTube right now. All our meetings are public, whether that be agenda-driven meetings or public council meeting. Just follow that. There's Facebook updates. I know a lot of people do social media. If you can't make it, but if you can make it on the first and third Wednesdays of every month, city council meeting, and the second and fourth Tuesdays, we have agenda meetings. And again, these are open to the public. They start at 5:30 at 326 Puget Street. But if you're unable to make it, there was an ordinance that was actually passed, but it turned into a state law where you can actually, every public entity now, the meetings are broadcast. So you can find up-to-date information. If you can't do that, get the number of your city council. Every city councilman has a cell phone. All of them text. All of them have voicemail, call. That's what we're here for. If you can't get us, there's a council clerk, Ms. Renee Newville. I think it's $4.1200. They have the show's agenda. They work there. They also have the various action hotline. So there's many methods that you can use, whether it be I need a wheel on my garbage can, or hey, my neighbor's not cutting their grass next door. There's many people, if you see the little white SUVs or the 60 little goat that goes throughout our city all day, that's what they're doing. They're in action and they're trying to put out your problems. But I always tell people, I know I can speak for the event, Councilman Grace is always local. There's thousands of residents that call every day. And I wish we did have the power to just be able to take a phone call, put the issue out right now. But in regards to property, and I had this conversation with a constituent last night at the meeting, the same way we're fighting to make sure that your area is clean and safe, we also have to protect the legal rights of the people who are being victimized, the people who have the old firm property. We can't just come and just cut their grass and weed it or condemn their property without going to the legal side. So it's patience on both sides. Like no one wants to live around blight, but at the same time, those people have legal rights. So it's like patience and grace talks. Well,
I would just say that parent, you or your family have properties, just make sure it's being kept up, at the house. If there's a structure, the house structure is being maintained, the property is being maintained, grass is being cut regularly, no junk items or debris are there, because you want your family to inherit or acquire property that's free and clear of liens and code violations. You can also, check the some market records to see if there's any liens against their properties, and to get that cleared up. I would also suggest going to public records request with the city to see if there's any code violations pending, because it may be some violations pending that you don't know or not aware of, but they need to be taken care of. So if you can get those taken care of, and pass that property on to someone that will take care of it,